Well, hey, everybody, Andrew here, back again. Top fitness strategies. We got a lot of stuff happening, and we have another one of our great interviews this evening. But first, before we get started, I always have to put my sponsors in there. And yes, I am sponsoring it as always. Oh, let me get this going on here. I sponsor it with my own ebook. I've got 102 tips, health and fitness, common sense at home health and fitness tips ebooks. Let me put it on here. My sponsors. Whoops. Think I would have done this beforehand, but no, can't do that, can I? No. I have to do it the old-fashioned way. So there you go. So, all right. So I got that going on there. And all right, this evening we got a treat for you guys. I got a treat for you guys. It's a friend of mine, internet friend of mine. Well, I'll get into that in a second. Let me introduce her in the proper way. With a National Academy of Sports Medicine personal trainer's license and a fitness nutrition specialist certification, Colin DeWay is also the owner of Colin DeWay Training LLC, an online strength and nutrition consulting business that fully customized training and nutrition programs for those interested in changing their lifestyle. He specializes in helping people with a history of yo-yo dieting create a more sustainable, healthy lifestyle, improve metabolism, and helping make binges a thing of the past by creating a healthy relationship with food to utilizing flexible dieting. His goal is to help produce realistic, sustainable results that last a lifetime. And now he can also add that he's a live top fitness strategy interviewee coming on. And so welcome to this evening and welcome.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm very much looking forward to this, and it should be fun. I don't know if you remember, but we actually did something similar many years ago. I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago we did an interview.
That was when I had a whole different kind of setup, and it was all amateurish, and it was you were great.
I wasn't even in business at the time.
My technical abilities were absolutely horrendous at that time, and it was pretty bad, but we had a good time. And
it was.
And we've been internet friends, Facebook friends, and I've watched Colin grow from, like you say, he didn't have a business at that time. I've watched him grow into something that's pretty powerful out there on the internet, especially in the fitness and health world. Now, and I just got into it, and what I do is I usually tell the folks that are watching how I met you, and basically just got a roundabout thing there. We had a couple of mutual friends on Facebook, of course, and we became friends that way. And he was in the business, and I was too, and so we started talking, and voila, here we are. So, but since then, and I'm going to point this out because people probably don't know this, and I bet you're happy with it right now. Colin is a risk taker in a major way. He took his family from, I think it was Minnesota, down to Florida. And right now, I'm sure he's happy he did it because it's it's great. So I've watched him grow. He has a beautiful wife and a growing kid, growing like a weed down there. And are you happy with the move? Let me ask you that.
Oh yeah, we're thrilled. We couldn't be happier. And actually, my parents were just here this last week. They just went back today. Actually, we brought them back. They're still in Minnesota, and they were very thankful they got out because it was like below zero the entire time, just freezing. And man, we don't miss that. And you mentioned my son too, and that's probably been the biggest blessing of all of it. Like we love it for the weather and everything else, but he has asthma and he was just sick all the time in Minnesota. And now that we moved to Florida, he's so much better. And it was a real blessing for him.
Well, fantastic. Yeah. Now we can talk family in Florida all day long. I used to live down there as well. I'm cold and snowy Indiana right now. But the focus of today, we're going to talk about metabolism because you, my friend, are the master at mastering your metabolism. So tell us, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and how you got started and what brought you to this part.
Sure. So my name is Colin DeWay, obviously, and my business name is Colin DeWay Training because I'm super creative. And I got into business about 6 years ago, and it was just I got into fitness right around the time my son was born back in 2008. I just kind of really started to get into it. I had kind of gotten a little bit out of shape, some of the sympathy weight and stuff, and got into the gym and just really started falling in love with it, seeing some progress. And it just turned to the point where I just kind of like spent all my free time always doing something fitness related, researching things, creating articles, videos, everything else. And just over time, I just really grew a huge passion for it and wanted to, take that risk and try to make it my career. I just felt like it made sense to why spend all this time doing something that I don't like when I could be doing what I love for a living. And that's how I kind of got into it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, okay, so this is going to be all about metabolism, dieting, and things of that sort. So, walk me through it. So you started working out. You like in the gym, working your body, doing stuff like that. So, what got you into the I guess more focused on nutrition than I don't want to say more focused on nutrition than weight, because they go hand in hand. I mean, weight training, but it seems like everything that I see of yours is more focused on that rather than let's pump up a whole bunch of muscles.
It is, and I do focus more on nutrition. I mean, I love training, and it's not like it's not important at all. It certainly is, but nutrition is the thing that seems to be lacking for a lot of people, and it's a highly misunderstood thing, especially metabolism. And as I grew my knowledge and just saw what people were doing out there, it just became very evident that the way most people approach their diets and the way they do things really works against them and makes losing weight and keeping it off especially very difficult, because their metabolism is always fighting them. And it's so common, and I just really wanted to be able to help people with this. So I just kind of dug in and kind of made that sort of my niche, so to speak. And I just do as much as I can to put as much content out there as I can to help people, because there's so much misinformation out there and so many quick fixes and everything else that doesn't work. And, I'm not interested in helping somebody lose weight real quick and just gain it back. I want someone to create a lifetime of success, as you mentioned in the beginning.
Great. Fantastic. Now, I actually had to write some stuff down because I was all over the place when I was telling myself, okay, what kind of questions? Because I have 1,000 questions, and if I don't rein myself in, you love to talk about this. We can talk for 5 hours and never
right.
Thing. So in my introduction that I kind of butchered as I was reading there.
Good.
You mentioned yo-yo dieting. So person that's brand new, that's never heard you before, can you explain what yo-yo dieting is?
Yeah, so yo-yo dieting is basically where people tend to go on oftentimes very extreme diets, something that they do very short term just to try to lose weight as fast as possible and just kind of like be done with it, so to speak. And what ends up happening is they really slow their metabolism down by this, because I'm sure we'll get into this at some point, but real briefly, the more you diet and the more aggressively you do it, the more your metabolism slows down and adapts to this. And it gets very difficult to lose weight, not only physiologically, but also psychologically. It just really takes its toll when you're ultra restrictive. And eventually most people end up just saying it's not worth the effort. I can't do this anymore. Stop. And then go back and typically not only go back to their old eating habits, but often overeat even more because they do feel so restricted. So then they really overeat significantly, gain the weight back very fast, oftentimes even more than they lost to begin with, kind of panic, go back into a diet again to try to get it off again, and do this kind of back and forth behavior. And it just gets harder and harder and harder each time you do it. And this can last for years, even decades for a lot of people, and just really wreaks havoc on the metabolism. So it's that kind of on again, off again approach to dieting, either all in or all out, so to speak, that all or nothing mentality.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So just plain the word dieting. All right. When the average person, and when I say average, a person that's not in the fitness world, because you and I hear this all the time, so this is going to be a softball question. The word dieting to us is different than the typical person not in the thing, because right away they say, "Well, I got to go on a diet." Well, going on a diet, dieting are two different things, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, a lot of it's semantics. I think it's the way people interpret it. When I mention dieting, I'm saying they're altering their diet in a way to try to lose fat. We always say lose weight. We're not looking to lose weight. We're looking to lose fat. But again, it's kind of semantics. It's about speaking the language that people understand and then teaching them along the way. And that's why I say that. Like, I'll say lose weight, but understand the difference between weight and fat is not one and the same. Same thing with kind of like dieting. Dieting means you're specifically reducing calories, probably increasing activity to create a calorie deficit to lose body fat, is kind of the way I look at the term dieting. Whereas a diet is kind of like the context of the types of foods that you eat, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm going to eat a salad every day for the next 20 days, and then I'll be, thin as a rail so I can eat pizza again. No, it's not.
Right. No.
Oh, so, all right. So you mentioned calories. I was going to ask about this later on, but your latest video showed somebody, a comparison. Somebody eating 2,000 calories a day was thinner than somebody eating 1,000 calories a day. So I'm going to assume, well, I'm not going to assume anything. I'll let you explain. So why is that possible? Or how can somebody get to that stage?
Well, it really, again, it always requires context, and there's a million ways to go about this. The main example that I would give would be that someone goes on a diet, right? They lose a bunch of weight, and then what they do is something called reverse dieting, which I'm sure we'll get into, where you kind of gradually increase your calories over time to get your metabolism to ramp back up again and try to minimize the amount of fat that you gain while doing that, because your metabolism will be suppressed whenever you're done dieting. So by getting those calories back up again, what can happen is you might be heavier, especially if you have a suppressed metabolism from a long history of yo-yo dieting. You might be maintaining on a much lower calorie amount than you should based on your normal genetics and stats and everything else. You go through the period of reverse dieting, get yourself back into a better place, diet down, right? And then get in better shape. Now you reverse back up, get your calories higher. You might get those calories even higher than you were before because of how suppressed your metabolism was. To the case of this video that you're mentioning, this was kind of an extreme example, and I mentioned this in the video. Sometimes people will start reverse dieting and actually lose weight as calories come up. It's rare. It should never be expected, but it does happen, and I kind of explained some of the reasons why that can happen. So in some rare instances that can happen, but nobody should ever expect that from the reverse. It's more of a taking it by phases. Okay. Cut down for a while, reverse diet for a while, get your metabolism back up, cut down, kind of take it in chunks, so to speak, if that makes sense.
So you're throwing out this term reverse diet. I know you hit on it a couple of times here, but for the folks that are watching us, never heard this term before, because right away when somebody, first time I heard the term, let me put it that way, is reverse diet. So does that mean I can eat a whole bunch today and then less tomorrow and so on and so forth that way? But that is not, from what I understand. I mean, you know about this more than I do, a whole lot more than I do. So explain the basics to somebody who's never heard reverse dieting before. How would you explain it to them? Let me ask you that way.
Sure. So the main primary use of it is like the way it would be the way somebody would normally go about it if everything was the way it was supposed to be physiologically and everything. As I kind of mentioned, once you are done with a cutting phase, you've gotten down, you've lost the amount of fat you want to, and you're in a better place, or even your body's fighting you too much and you can't keep up with it. At that point, your hormones are going to be out of whack. Your metabolism is going to be suppressed. You're going to be maintaining on less calories than you should at that point. Using reverse dieting allows you to get your metabolism back up to a place where it should be while minimizing fat gain. And the way you do that is by gradually increasing your calories over time. So let's just say, for instance, somebody finishes a cutting phase and let's say they're maintaining their weight on, this is just random, 1,500 calories. But realistically, they should probably be maintaining on maybe 2,000 calories. Well, if you just jump from 1,500 calories to 2,000 calories when your body is maintaining on 1,500, you're going to gain a lot of body fat because it's way over your maintenance calories and your body can't keep up with that. But by taking the time to kind of systematically and gradually increase them over time, your body can kind of keep up with the increase in calories and not gain as much fat. You might gain a little bit, but you can really minimize it this way. And it allows you to get back into a better place without just gaining a bunch of weight back. So that's kind of like the initial way you can do it. But,
okay. All right. So right away, I have some questions that jump out on me. Okay. So
sure.
If I wanted to start reverse dieting, do I have to prepare something? I mean, and not like prepare something in the kitchen, but prepare my body to do something, or can I start doing it tomorrow?
you can start doing it tomorrow. Now, if you don't know how much you're eating, if you don't know what your maintenance calories are roughly, you're going to want to get that first. So what I typically recommend, like if you haven't been tracking, this is something that you're probably going to have to be tracking. If you hate tracking, I'm not saying you have to track to be able to get results, but in this instance, with what I do, you're going to want to track. Now, if you are unsure of where your maintenance calories are and you've been kind of roughly maintaining your weight, what I recommend is taking the next kind of week or so and just eat the same. Like, don't change anything about your eating habits whatsoever, but now track it. Okay. And then over the next 7 days, take an average of those 7 days of calories. Now you have a rough idea. Okay. You put that together. Oh, I ate on average 1,800 calories. That's roughly my maintenance calories. Now you have a target from there to start increasing a little bit from there.
Okay. So all right. So let's say, using your numbers, the 1,800 per day. All right. To maintenance your calorie intake. All right. So you start increasing from that. So if I, in my mind, in theory, if I start increasing from that, I'm just going to get bigger. So where does what's the question I'm looking for? Where's my disconnect here? Where am I?
No, there's no disconnect, and it all depends on your starting position. So the big thing is, we're making the assumption now when somebody's doing this that they're doing it from a position of having a suppressed metabolism, either because they just finished a cutting phase or because they have a long history of dieting. The longer you've dieted, the more extreme you've dieted, the more times you've done it, the more your metabolism is likely to be more suppressed. So a lot of times people, like I said, yo-yo diet all the time. Now your metabolism is going to be much more suppressed than it should be, and you're going to have a really hard time losing. And if that's you, now you start your reverse diet from there to get your maintenance calories back up to a better place. So will you gain a little bit of weight during that process? You should expect some. Not everyone does. It kind of depends on a lot of different factors, including how well you adhere to the plan, of course. But by taking it slower, the slower you increase calories, the less likely you are to gain, but also the longer it's going to take to get calories up, to start feeling better, to be able to have more flexibility with your diet, all the positives that come with it. But the less likely you are to gain. The faster you do it, the more likely you are to gain, but also the faster you're going to start making these improvements and feeling better. So if you're someone, like I've had people before who have never dieted in their entire life and come to me and say, well, how fast should I increase my calories during a reverse? I'm like, well, you don't need to reverse. You've never dieted. Your metabolism's as good as it's ever going to be right now. You don't have to reverse. There'd be no point unless you wanted to go into like a specific building phase and you wanted to eat in a surplus to do so. You could use that as a means to kind of limit the amount of fat that you gain during a bulk, so to speak. But anytime you're going into a reverse, you're going into it with a suppressed metabolism. So, if you're fine, then there's no point.
So if somebody just has been a couch potato for the last 3 months and not working out or anything, is that somebody a candidate that should go for the reverse dieting, or should they not?
It depends on their history.
Okay. All right.
If they have an extreme history of dieting and they had dieted for a year and then spent 3 months being a couch potato, they're probably not going to have recovered their metabolism in that time. It takes a long time. Typically, if somebody's consistent, there's been a number of different case studies. Now, these were done in like bodybuilders, so not like general population, but the case studies that have been done have almost always shown that it took just as long post diet to reverse to get their hormones and metabolism back to where it was pre-diet. So if they dieted for 6 months, it took 6 months to get back into a better place again.
Okay.
Diet for 8 months, it takes roughly 8 months. So if you spent a whole year of dieting in a calorie deficit and then spent 3 months doing whatever you wanted, you're probably not going to be where you should be metabolically at that time. And that's what makes it so difficult, because even though you probably gained a lot of fat during that time, it shot up really fast, that doesn't automatically mean your metabolism is going to get back to where it needs to be. It's still lagging behind because of that. So that's why we want to take it more gradually rather than this all at once kind of a thing.
Okay. All right. And we can talk about this forever, because I still have time.
I certainly can.
I have 1,000 questions, but I want to get more into the metabolism, how somebody can speed up their metabolism. For those folks that are just joining us now, I'm talking with Colin DeWay, and he's a fitness nutritional specialist, NAM certification, and he's a master at Mastering Your Metabolism. He has a great YouTube page. I have it listed on there. And go look at it and subscribe. So, all right, so let's talk about metabolism.
Sure.
So first of all, I hear this all the time when I say, well, as I get older, my metabolism slows. It doesn't matter if I work out or not work out. It's just going to slow down as I get older. So I don't want to get into the truths and myths yet about it, because I'm going to ask you that later on. But how can somebody, when somebody comes to you, let me ask you this. When somebody first approaches you, what are some of I'm sure you get the person with the same question all the time, how they approach you about their metabolism. What do they usually say, or what's their usual mentality when they come to you? Is that fair? Am I asking that right?
Yeah, you can. It's just everyone's a little bit different, and there's so many different possible reasons why. I would say probably the most common is, I've tried everything under the sun. I've done everything. I've been on every single diet. I've done everything you could possibly think of, and I just can't lose weight. My metabolism must be terrible. And at that point, if they have tried every single diet known to mankind, that probably means they've been dieting a lot for a long period of time. And it's probably true that their metabolism is in a bad place. But is it age, or is it because you've dieted your metabolism into the ground? Okay. Maybe a little bit of a combo factor, but I would argue it's much more the constant dieting that does it more than anything.
Okay. So does working out, I mean, of course, working out helps burn muscle, burn fat and all that good stuff with you. But is that the main factor of speeding up your metabolism is working out, or is there other factors?
The only way that you can realistically increase your metabolism from its baseline based on your genetic potential, assuming no history of dieting and all that type of stuff, is to add muscle to your frame. Like it's the only way. Does your metabolism slow down over time as you age? Yes. I have dug through a little bit of research on this. It's kind of hard to find a lot on it. Usually it shows that your metabolism may slow down 3 to 5% every 10 years or so, every decade. Okay. So that's not that much. I mean, that it doesn't help, but it's not like you just all of a sudden, just slap on 10, 20, 30 pounds because of a 3% increase or decrease in metabolism. And it also shows that the majority, if not all, of the decreases in metabolism come from losses in lean body mass. So if you want to stop your metabolism from slowing down with age, what's the best way to do that? Strength training, building muscle, making sure you're not only keeping what you already have, because that's why we lose it over time, because you will lose it as you get older if you don't use it. But that keeps you from not only not losing it, but also building more to help speed your metabolism up even more from there. Okay.
All right. So say you said strength training or resistance training really burns, speeds up your metabolism. What if somebody is not into that, but they prefer to be a distance runner or a bicyclist or something? Is that how does that fit into metabolism burning or metabolism speeding up?
Well, they're not going to be able to do it from the baseline, so to speak. And the problem, and I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't do this. Like I'm all about sustainability. Like it's huge to me. If you can't keep doing what you're doing, how are you going to be able to keep your results? And that goes for both diet and exercise. So if you hate strength training and love cardio, I'm not going to say, nope, you have to strength train because that's what's most optimal. Like, no, you're not going to be able to keep it up. So if you love cardio, that's great. But the downside of cardio is your body becomes more efficient the more you do it. So you end up burning less calories throughout the same amount of exercise over time. And you just have to keep doing more and more and more to get the same amount. Basically, you're trying to get more of a increase in calorie burn from it. So from a metabolism perspective, like it doesn't do anything from your like baseline metabolism, but you burn extra calories doing cardio. So it helps put you in a calorie deficit. So that's the benefit of it. But again, you can only do it for so long and see benefits from it. So you can't just keep doing cardio and expect your body to keep losing and losing and losing and losing forever. Your body adapts. And we can go down a whole wormhole with that one.
Well, but I always tell people, if your body looks like a pear and all you do is start running or get on a bicycle or something of that sort, which I if that's all you can do, I encourage it, because I always say doing something is better than doing nothing.
100%.
But if that's all you do, yeah, you'll lose your body fat, and you'll look like a skinny pear. You're not going to change the shape of your body,
Right.
and that comes with strength or resistance type training.
Correct.
So, all right, now you mentioned the term baseline metabolism several times. So how does somebody find what find out what their baseline metabolism is?
The best thing that I recommend is what I mentioned earlier about tracking your own diet for a week and just seeing that, and then just be consistent. So like if you think it's around 1800 based on that, now spend the next week eating specifically 1800 calories a day on average. It can be up or down a little bit, but your average for the week, and see how your body responds. So however much you eat and maintain your weight at, that's your maintenance calories, regardless of what any macro calculator or TDE calculator or any online calculator there is out there says. You don't change reality. And the problem with these calculators is not only are they significantly off a lot, but they don't take into account personal genetics and things like diet history and things like that. And you can take two people with the exact same stats, same height, weight, age, gender, everything. One person may maintain on 1500 calories, the other person might maintain on 2300 calories. So you're better off figuring out for yourself what that is. And your maintenance calories is a moving target. Like it's not just always the same all the time.
Okay, so what if you, and I'm sure you've done this, but you run into somebody like myself, when I absolutely cannot stand portioning out my food or counting calories. Can't stand it. Now that's probably why I look like me and you look like you.
Stop.
So what do you recommend for someone that just doesn't get? Because I bring this up because with all the technology nowadays, everybody with the little apps and doing everything on their phone can track everything. I don't do that, and I have a real hard time portioning my food because I've never been accustomed to doing that, and a few times I've done it, I absolutely hated it. So, would you even take a client like me?
I would not. I would refer you out to somebody else because it's beyond my expertise, so to speak. Like I kind of specialize in a certain type of thing, and there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? So I'm not going to take on somebody who's not going to fit my type of coaching that well, and I would refer you to somebody else who would fit that a little bit better. I will say, however, I do recommend that everybody tracks using actual macros, not just calories, but using, if you don't know what macros are, it's macronutrients, so your carbs, protein, and fat. I recommend doing it at least for a few months for everybody. And I know even if you hate it, just get through it for a few months, because the teaching tool that it gives for you is something that can last a lifetime and really help significantly, because everyone wants to be able to eat intuitively. But how can you eat intuitively if you have no clue what's in the food you eat? It always comes down to, well, eat this, don't eat that. This is good for you, this is bad for you. And it just kind of like places morality on food, which creates a horrible relationship with food. It makes you feel guilty or beat yourself up. And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't punch your best friend in the face or cheat on your spouse. You had a piece of cake. It's fine. Like so by tracking your intake for a while and seeing what's in the food you eat and seeing what a portion size looks like and going through that experience for a while to build the knowledge base, it allows you to be more intuitive down the road, because now you understand this. Whereas a lot of people just make assumptions on, okay, well, I shouldn't eat that because so-and-so says so. It's not on my meal plan, so I shouldn't eat it, and it's bad if I do. I want to teach you to be able to include these things into your diet and see that you can have them and still see results, as long as you have, as you kind of alluded to, portion control. So there's a very valuable learning tool to tracking, even if you don't, if you're not going to do it long term. And that's kind of the goal for most people anyways, is to wean off of it. Like we track for a while, and you might, hopefully it'll get you to a place where you want to be and you're happy, and then we start weaning you off tracking and start being more intuitive with things. But I can't do that with somebody who has no knowledge base of what it looks like to begin with.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. So when you refer to tracking your food, right away my mind goes to calorie counting. Is that one and the same? Are you talking about, or are you talking about two different things with calorie counting?
Calories is part of it, but I prefer either macro tracking, which you get your calories from your macros. So 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. This is where you get your calorie count from. Now, there's been a ton of research, and everyone's got their own opinion on this, and everyone always says, well, you shouldn't eat carbs, they're terrible, or you shouldn't eat fat, you should only eat carbs, or whatever else. There's been multiple studies, including a very large study that lasted a year in over 600 people, where they matched calories and protein and had groups either do a high carb, low fat diet or a high fat, low carb diet. And there was basically no difference in the results between the two groups. And that's the thing that I always try to push for is, at a minimum, track your calories and your protein. And the reason for that is because protein is so beneficial and so underutilized. And the reason it's different, like we often hear, not all calories are created equal, right? Like, it's just 100 calories from a donut is not the same as 100 calories from broccoli or whatever else, which is both kind of true and untrue at the same time. It's untrue in that 100 calories into your mouth from any source is exactly the same. It's what happens once it gets into your body that changes things. Calories out. We're talking about calories out now, because your body has what's called the thermic effect of food, which is basically how many calories your body burns processing the food you eat. So protein has about a 20 to 30% thermic effect of food. So that means for every 100 calories you eat of protein, you only net about maybe 70 or 80 from that. Whereas with a donut, you're going to net most of it. So it's like 5 to 8% for carbs, like 2 to 3% for fat. It's almost nothing for fat. So protein is very beneficial, not only for the high thermic effect of food, which makes a huge difference, but also it's what builds and maintains muscle mass. We just talked about how important lean body mass is. And it's also the most filling macronutrient by far too. There's a hormone in the body called ghrelin, which is nicknamed the hunger hormone, which basically elevates and it makes you hungry. Protein significantly reduces the hormone ghrelin and helps you feel full, which obviously, especially when calories are getting lower in a cutting phase, not feeling quite so hungry is going to help you get better results.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend? A couple of sources of protein that you would recommend.
Well, the leaner ones are going to be helpful in terms of being able to keep your calories down while getting your protein up. So things like skinless chicken breast, turkey breast, egg whites, a lot of white fishes and tuna, a lot of seafoods too. It's kind of an underutilized one, especially like shrimp is basically like all protein. And but it's going to be mostly your animal sources. So it's a more difficult thing for people who are vegans, vegetarians, and stuff like that. Not that it can't be done. It's just a little bit more of a challenge. But those are ones that you can get a lot of protein for hardly any calories. So a lot of other sources you can get, like more of your beefs, or at least the ones that aren't very lean. You can get like 96.4 even beef, and that's very lean. But your 70-30s and 80-20s and stuff are you're gonna have a lot more fat that comes with it. So to get the same amount of protein, you're gonna have a lot more calories because of the fat that comes with it. Like one of the ones that people always say is nuts. That's horrible advice because you're gonna get so many more calories. I mean, yeah, it might have like 7 grams of protein in it, but you're gonna spend 200 calories to get that 7 or whatever it is, you know what I mean? I think it's like 160 or something like that to get 7 grams of protein. Or for 20 grams of protein, you can, for 100 calories, you can eat egg whites, or 120 calories. You know what I mean? So,
all right. I mean, you just open up a whole other thread where I can go on with talking about different foods and nuts and stuff like that. But I only asked for a half hour of your time, and we're right at that mark.
All right, it's up to you. I will sit as long as you want, but if you got places to be, I totally understand. So no
problem here. I got a couple more questions though. So one of your, I always have this pen in my hand. every one of these interviews, I don't know why. I guess it's like the line is like now. So as I was scrolling through your videos, watching some of your videos, looking at some of the titles, one of them says, everything you know about dieting is a lie.
Yes.
So that brought up the fact that, all right, I want to ask you about myths. Am I saying myths? Am I saying right? Myths about dieting, or why is everything they know about dieting a lie? So let me ask you that first.
Because there's so much misinformation out there, and everyone thinks they have these magic solutions, and it's always about like do this and not that, and it's never that simple, and it's never that. Simultaneously, it's not that complicated either, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but bear with me for a second. So, so we hear things like okay, don't eat carbs after 6 p.m., right? Or you have to eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. Or you have to eat every 2 hours to keep your metabolism burning, all these types of things. And none of them are true. And when you dig through the research, it really shows that what really matters more than anything is your total content of food throughout the day. So specifically your total macronutrient content throughout the day. So whether you like to eat late at night, early in the morning, if you like lots of small meals, if you like a couple of big meals, if you like to eat in a time restricted window like intermittent fasting, none of that really matters when it comes to fat loss. It's all about your total content. So again, this comes back down to, okay, what's sustainable to you? How do you like to eat? What do you enjoy doing? What's easier for you to stick to? So that's some of the big ones. And the big one for me is always you can't have certain types of foods, like clean eating, which everyone has a different definition of what clean eating means. You ask any two people and they're going to have a completely different definition of what that means.
Absolutely, yes.
So if you go far down that rabbit hole, you basically can't eat anything. So and again, it's just not true. Like, yes, you can have donuts. Do you want to eat nothing but donuts? Of course not. But you can fit a donut into your diet, even on a daily basis. If it's fitting into your calorie balance for the day, that's fine. And we don't have to look at certain types of foods as either good or bad. And sometimes I'd even argue that in some occasions, eating a donut might be the best thing, because let's just say, for instance, if you look at a sweet potato versus a donut, which one's better? A sweet potato. Everyone's going to say that. But if by having that donut instead of the sweet potato is going to help you feel satisfied, it's going to curb any cravings that you have, and you're going to feel good, and you're going to stick to your diet the rest of the time. Mm-hmm. Or you have a sweet potato and you feel really restricted and you can't take it anymore, and now you go and you binge your face off and eat an entire dozen donuts because you feel so restricted. Well, I would argue that eating that one donut and then feeling better is probably better than completely falling off the wagon. And I think that's one of the big ones to me. So.
Yep. What I tell the people that follow me, because I don't get nearly as technical as you do with it. I say, because my audience is the fit after 50 crowd. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, okay, we're old enough to know what's good for us, what's not good for us. Eat what's good for you. And if you need to eat the bad stuff, in which you know what it is, do it in smaller moderation. Come on now, let's get sensible about this, especially if you're a 400-pound couch potato. You know why you're there. Okay. Yeah. Let's be sensible a little bit here. So, so I appreciate everything you're saying. We come at this from two different levels.
No, it's good.
I'm more, all right, let's do some common sense type thing. So I'm glad we're talking here and getting all this. You mentioned intermittent fasting a second ago, which is completely spaced my mind. I'm like, okay. And you also said that, if I understood this, as long as you get X amount of calories, whatever your maintenance calories are throughout the day, the way I understood it, what you said is fine. But also I hear intermittent fasting is the way to go, because it gives your body a rest. So is there any balance there? First of all, is intermittent fasting, do you recommend it? Let me ask that.
If it fits your lifestyle and your preferences, then great. I sometimes get attacked for it because I will say that intermittent fasting isn't magic. So then the whole intermittent fasting crowd comes after me and says, but I didn't say it was bad. And I even will specifically say, if you like intermittent fasting and it helps you, then great, do it. It's just not magic. And the main benefit of intermittent fasting is, with a time restricted window, you have less time throughout the day to eat. You therefore kind of naturally eat less total calories, puts you in a calorie deficit, you lose weight. It's not because of the time restricted window. It's not because fasting is magic. And this has been studied too. There's a lot of studies that show that intermittent fasting is beneficial, but there's not any, to my knowledge. And if anybody sees this and knows about it, I'm always all ears to look at more data. I'm always open to changing my mind. But there's none in my knowledge that looked at a calorie and protein equated diet, one with a fasting method, one without. All right. And anytime they have done something like that, it's been the same. So there was even one study, I'd have to pull it up, but they looked at several different strategies. Again, matched protein and calories. It was like 2 meals, 4 meals, 6 meals, 12 meals. Like, I think it went up to like 14 meals, all these different strategies, eating like every couple hours, every few hours, every 5 hours, down to like twice per day, basically. And there was no difference in any of them in fat loss and health markers as well. So I actually kind of use intermittent fasting. I don't do it intentionally. It's just the way I typically eat is kind of an intermittent fasting style of eating. I'm never hungry in the morning. I haven't been my whole entire life. So I don't eat breakfast. And I usually eat lunch as my first meal, and then I eat a dinner, and then I'll usually eat something before bed. That's usually about a 10 or so hour window. It's just the way I like to eat. But
I argue most people are like that they're only eating between certain hours a day. Of course, the quote unquote 8 hours of sleep, so you're not eating then, supposedly. I mean, people that get 8 hours sleep nowadays,
Yeah, right.
But like yourself, a lot of people I know don't eat breakfast, and they don't eat past 6 or 7 in the evening. So in a way, they're kind of doing the intermittent fasting without realizing that they're doing it.
Right.
I also think that if they start putting their mind to it, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to eat in the morning. If I don't eat by 11 o'clock, I'll starve myself, even though they've been doing it all their life and they don't realize it. And then it turns into a psychological type thing. But we can get off into a tangent about that. So, all right, Colin. So how can people get in touch with you if they wanted to? And I have already posted your website and your YouTube, but go ahead and pimp yourself out a little bit here for me.
Sure. So my website is colindewaytraining.com. So you probably see it on the screen, COLINDEWAAY training.com. There's a contact page on there. Otherwise, I'm most active on YouTube and Instagram, both using my name, Colin DeWay, and then also Facebook, Colin DeWay Training. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email at coach@colindewaytraining.com.
Okay. And once again, I tell people all the time, if you're watching this and you or listening to this and you're driving, or you just couldn't write anything down, you can always shoot me a message. You guys know how to contact me, and I can get it to Colin. That's not a problem there. I highly recommend you go check out his YouTube page. He has all kinds of stuff on there, and it is rocking. That guy's on fire. So
thank you.
Any final words of wisdom you'd like to tell people that are watching right now?
Yeah, I guess I would say just
I'm sorry.
No, I like it because I think there's a lot of common mistakes that we fall into, and the biggest advice that I can possibly give anybody trying to accomplish any fitness goals is you need to have patience. Don't rush the process. It has to be a lifestyle. You have your whole life ahead of you. It doesn't have to be rushed, and usually rushing the process only makes things worse. So be patient. Make sure what you're doing is sustainable and something you can do for the rest of your life, not some type of diet that you're just going to do until the weight comes off and then be done because you're just going to gain it back. And just be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and just take it day by day. And did I mention don't rush the process?
Fantastic advice. There's too many people that live in what's called a microwave world out there. You want results right away, and how Colin does it. And I know this from watching him and watching some of the folks that he's trained. Now, I wouldn't be a client of his, as we already discussed, because I don't look at things the way he does in the technical aspect. So, which I appreciate you saying that. That way you don't have you're not bombarded with people like myself coming at you. So I appreciate you saying that like that. But
Sure.
what he's saying is right on. It's going to be a lifestyle change. And if you are wanting to do this, Colin is the guy to talk to. So I highly recommend you go to his website and or at least contact him somehow so you can get the proper information. So, Colin, once again, thank you for being our guest on Top Fitness Strategy. And I always reserve the right to call you back sometime and we can chit chat. I know you can chit chat more.
Anytime. I told you before, if you wanted to make this 2 hours, it would be no problem because I can talk about this all day long. So I really appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Well, that's another edition of the interview series here at Top Fitness Strategies. And so until next time, this is Andrew and Colin.
Thanks,
Ciao.
guys.